Hello travelers! Recently, we discussed Skirk's and Dahlia's kits and talents in our latest videos. But today, we're diving into a bigger topic, the potential meta of the upcoming 6.x version of the game. We will be skipping over the 5.8 patch for this discussion, as it is expected to be a filler or conclusion patch. It's unlikely to significantly affect the upcoming version, unless the developers decide to introduce something major, which seems improbable. Now, please keep in mind that everything we're about to discuss is pure speculation. There are no leaks involved. However, I'll try to provide a thoughtful analysis on why I believe the Kamisato siblings, Ayaka and Ayato, might receive significant attention in the upcoming version. Let's begin by examining how developers have crafted the meta in recent versions. We've seen that each region or version introduces its own distinct mechanic or elemental focus. Currently, there's no confirmed mechanic for the new region, but we do know from past patterns that aside from a unique regional feature, the devs often spotlight a specific element tied to the archon of that region. But here's where things get interesting. Nod-Krai doesn't represent an archon, at least not in the traditional sense. And if we apply a process of elimination, we'll realize that cryo hasn't dominated the meta for quite some time. Yes, there have been moments where freeze or melt comps got attention, but usually, it's brief. When melt is in focus, it tends to highlight a pyro DPS more than cryo. So, this opens up the possibility that the 6.x region could be cryo-focused, simply because no other element fits as naturally into the spotlight right now. This shift could mean that freeze, superconduct, and shatter reactions will be central to the new meta. We already know that the recent 5-star sub-DPS, Escoffier, synergizes well with the Kamisato siblings, both Ayaka and Ayato. But her synergy with them isn't the only reason I think they're heading back into the spotlight. Here's the first reason. The developers rarely design a whole version around just one elemental reaction. Since Escoffier focuses specifically on freeze, it's likely that this reaction will only be part of the new region's mechanic. Escoffier might serve as an off-field cryo applicator and team healer in upcoming patches, offering consistent support while not necessarily being a centerpiece of the new meta. I also believe this is exactly why she was designed as a sub-DPS. Even though she doesn't provide the 55% hydro or cryo resistance shred that some support units offer, her personal damage is impressive. Her burst scales well, and players can use her as a versatile support or healer, no matter the team comp. Now let's relate this to Skirk, the upcoming 5-star cryo main DPS debuting in version 5.7. Like Escoffier, Skirk excels in freeze team comps, thanks to her stick severance mechanic. This ability amplifies her normal and burst attacks, making her reliant on freeze reactions for peak performance. If you're not familiar with Skirk's kit, I highly recommend checking out my previous video for a deep dive. Her playstyle can be quite complex at first. However, beyond freeze, Skirk's phantom rifts can also be generated through superconduct, cryo swirl, and cryo crystallize, giving her some versatility. These rifts enhance her burst mode and recharge mechanics, making her viable even when freeze isn't the focal reaction of a version. This brings us to my main argument, why Ayaka and Ayato might become relevant again. Starting with Ayaka, compared to newer characters like Skirk or even Riothusly, Ayaka is a versatile cryo DPS. She fits into any cryo-based reaction setup. While she may not boast the highest damage numbers in today's meta, her adaptability is her strength. And considering we'll likely see new support characters in the upcoming region, we can safely assume that Ayaka will benefit from whatever cryo-related niche the developers introduce. This also explains why the chronicled banners in version 5.6 are focusing on Inazuma characters. While they might not currently compete with newer DPS units in raw damage, it's clear the developers are giving them a renewed spotlight. Characters like Yaemiko, with her off-field electro application, could pair well for superconduct teams. Raiden Shogun also remains a top-tier off-field support and may re-emerge in the meta depending on what reaction types get boosted. And if the developers decide to push a shatter-based meta, Chiori and Itto could also become surprisingly relevant. But for now, let's focus on the most likely elemental pairings for version 6.x, Hydro and Cryo, specifically Ayaka and Ayato. Going back to Ayaka, her compatibility with various cryo-based reactions makes her a reliable pick. She may not be the strongest DPS right now, but for free-to-play players who want to invest in strong supports, Ayaka remains a smart main DPS choice in future patches. Now, let's talk about Kamisato Ayato. He's a 5-star Hydro Sword user who thrives on fast normal attacks. Attack speed scaling hasn't been heavily emphasized in past metas, but with the recent release of Dahlia, and the devs' clear interest in reviving old mechanics, we could be heading toward a meta that finally highlights attack speed-based characters. Combine that with Escoffier's utility in freeze teams, and we might see Ayato return to popularity even before Ayaka. There's also a strong chance we'll see a new 5-star support who can provide an attack speed buff, which would make Ayato even more effective. Let's now consider other characters who could make a comeback in 6.x. I personally believe that Eula could have her moment if superconductor physical damage comps get a boost. The devs rarely allow 1 or 2 DPS characters to dominate an entire region, and since Ayaka, Ayato, and Skirk all rely on elemental-infused attacks, a physical-based meta could shake things up. On the other hand, I don't think a melt-focused patch is likely. Pyro characters typically benefit more from melt, and while we do have a powerful Pyro unit in Mabuka, her damage potential might be too strong to center a whole version around. That said, I believe she could appear midway through version 6.x, possibly competing with a much more impactful character's banner. And yes, that might just be the long-awaited Harbinger, Columbina. We've already speculated that a Harbinger will return during the 5.7 Archon quest. If that turns out to be Columbina, it supports the theory that she could also be released as a banner character in version 6.x. As for Shatter, there's a decent chance we'll see this reaction re-emerge. If so, characters like Ito and Chiori could find a place in the meta. However, I also believe that the devs will introduce a new character built specifically for this playstyle, making older units less optimal. Even Riothusly might appear in one of the patches, but I would advise against building or investing in him just yet. He doesn't quite fit the niche that seems to be forming, and it could end up being just a one-off highlight. And that wraps up today's discussion. If you found this analysis helpful as you prepare for version 6.x, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Again, this is all speculative, and none of it is based on leaks, so please take everything with a grain of salt. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to support our channel. We've recently reached 125 subscribers, and I want to thank each of you for being among the first in our growing community. Thanks again for the support, and I'll see you in the next video.